My father was Patrick Lawrence Doherty. He was the second son of my grandfather Hugh, known as the Scalper. He was born in March 1926 in the Bogside in Thomas Street, where he grew up. He tells the story of when they were growing up. They were living in one of the cottages there, and there's a photograph. I can't remember where it was, but it was in a book I've seen of my grandfather standing at the top of Thomas Street, and the gable or the roof line of the house was actually meeting his head. My grandfather was 5'2", and my father was one of 10, and they lived in a two down and an attic. They were 6 girls, 4 lads, and the father tells the story of he climbed up the ladder into the bedroom, or the attic rather, and there was a curtain which divided the girls and the boys, and he said their wardrobe were a row of spaced nails across the purlin in the attic, and this is where they hung their clothes. And my granny was very particular that they were always very neat and tidy. She came from a very well-off for a family in County Wexford. And
Times were tough.
times were tough for them. As I say, my grandfather, Scalper, was a docker, and a docking, as we all know, he never had a really regular job. That a story my father tells of my grandfather was that my grandfather went missing on a particular day, and they had to search high and low for them. And my father and his mother went down along the docks to see if they could find him. And they ran into a couple of policemen, and they asked, did they know? They asked my father's name. He says, Hugh the Scalper. And he says, oh, right, there's been an incident, but your husband's all right. He'll be with you shortly. Grandfather rolled in the next morning, plastered out of his mind, went to bed, lay there for 2 days, got up, and he wasn't for going back to work. He wasn't going to do anything else. But then he told the story of what sent him. He said that there was 2 policemen, one a tough sergeant and the other constable, and they were having an argument in one of the sheds along the quay, one of the dock sheds, and the constable simply gave up the ghost, and as the officer, a sergeant, turned around to walk away from him, took out his revolver, shot the officer, and then he turned the revolver on himself. And my father and a friend of his, my grandfather and a friend of his, ran to try and stop him, but it was too late. And he described vividly the wounds of that policeman. And my granny asked him, well, where did you get the drink? Where did you get the money for the drink? And he says, well, we were on the barracks all day, and at night, policeman came in and says, right, let's go. And he says, he took us up to a pub. He says, we never put our pan in our pocket all night.
Do you think that if events like that shaped the person that your father was?
Oh yeah, everything that happened in the family and around the family, he remembered very much in detail. And I remember him and my Uncle Terry, God rest his soul, as well, just before they died. Terry would come up and they would sit down and they would yarn and chat about their youth and the growing up and the relatives they had. So, anyway, moving on, my father, much to the discern of my granny, went and got himself as an apprentice in a joinery workshop. My granny thought this was too uppish of him, that he should have gone to the docks with his father and at that stage his brother and brought in more money. Well, he became a joiner, he worked through, he did his apprenticeship, qualified, and coming up towards, I think it would have been about his 20th birthday, he went on to McEwen's shoe shop in William Street at the time, and there he met my mother, Eileen McDade, and he tells the story that we would call it now stalking, and he stalked the door of that shop until he eventually got a date with my mother, and they started going together, and eventually afterward they were married. Now, they rented a one-story flat, a one-bedroom flat in Carlisle Road, and there my sister Doreen, the eldest, my brother John L, and I were born. And my father decided he went to the council, asked them if they could have a house. And basically, he was turned around and he said to him, "How many kids have you?" He said, at that stage, he had two. He said, two. And he was told by the council, or the corporation as it was then, right, come and see me in 9 years' time. Well, in 9 years' time, he had 6 kids. But so he was determined that he couldn't get anywhere to live, as it were. So he decided the only way out of it is to build. And there's 6 houses now in Westland Street, one row in Westland Street. In those days it was called the New Road. And he and the neighbours, we had at the top of the street, the Downies, they were plasterers. Mickey Farn was a bricklayer. Jack Boyce, another joiner. And my father, the joiner, and next door were the Kellys, and they were all plasterers. And they set out and they built the house. They built the 6 houses, if you like, as a cooperative. They got a £30 or a £300 loan to buy the land, and proceeded then bit by bit themselves with friends in building the houses. They were building at weekends, obviously, and after work, and they went on and on. And the rest of the lads got together and says, "Look, we're going to have to work on Sundays to pull this off." My father said, "No," he says, "we're going to have to get permission from the bishop." So my father went to the bishop, who was Bishop Farn at the time, and my father actually had been an altar boy at his coronation, I suppose you would call it. That's what we called it those days. And the bishop says, no, under no circumstances can you build on a sink, can you work on a Sunday. My father explained the position, what they were in, how they were trying to do it. He said no. And the rest of the five, he went back to the other five and families, and he says, look, that's it. He says, we can't work on a Sunday. The other five caused a breach in the relationship. The other five says, right, humping, we're working away. But he wouldn't work on a Sunday. He wouldn't defy the church. He was very pious, but also a very determined and individual man.
I mean, your father's famous line was always about act first and seek permission afterwards. But maybe tell us about going forward, about what your father became known as, why he became known with that name, and then your memories of that period between 68 and 72.
We were putting the third extension on the house in Westland Street. And the cars, everybody running around talking about this demonstration of 5th of October and who's going to go to it and what, and is it worth going to, etc., etc., etc. I had planned with my girlfriend at the time that we were going. So I made an excuse to my father so that I could knock off, come down the scaffolding early. And he said, okay, at this time, Emma McCann had come over. My father said to him, well, he says, he's going to march, or Emma said, oh, we're for marching. I says, right. So I decided, right, I'd head over to Duke Street. I got there with the girlfriend, and her father, believe it or not, he was a very, very quiet man. He decided he would be heading over with us. And I arrived over, and I was totally and absolutely flabbergasted, because there was my dad and my 4 brothers, and we went and marched. We all know what happened on Bloody Sunday. Directly after Bloody Sunday then, there was a meeting in the City Hotel to discuss the after effects, whether we would march again or what we would do. And it was decided that there to inaugurate the Citizens Action Group. My father was elected onto it, as were Michael Canavan, Ivan Cooper, John Hugh, and it progressed from then. The next big event was the November March, where there was about 25 odd thousand people. My father was appointed Chief Marshal at that, and he instructed the marshals on the procedures, what we were doing, how we were going. And we eventually ended up in the Guildhall Square, having come through the city by different routes. And like big event, we had many off to demonstrations. I think we went to practically every demonstration for civil rights as a family. The only one we didn't go to was Newry, which ended up in the riots. We were totally committed at that stage to peaceful demonstration. Gandhi was the watchword. Peaceful protest, civil disobedience. And that then, after the November March, we, as I say, we travelled on different demonstrations and whatnot. Coming to August and the Apprentice Boys Parade, there's great fear rising. Everybody was quivering, and I remember distinctly the services, the joint services, and the prayer groups in St. Colum's Cathedral and in St. Eugene's Cathedral. On the following day, we were organised into stewards, and I got the task at Little James's Street. There was a squad that was there to prevent, originally to prevent, the youth in the bog site attacking across into Great James's Street where the march was moving. And there was a group then down at Littlewood's corner at the bottom of William Street. The attack from the Apprentice Boys came first across from Great James's Street across to Little James's Street and then moved on. I was still wearing, believe it or not, a bright orange coat and my armband on, and eventually I just says, right, forget about it. It's over. And Mary Holland, who was an observer journalist at the time, saw me sitting on a windowsill in Little James's Street, and she said, Hugh, you know who you're looking to me like just there? She says, I once saw a photograph of Kevin Barry. And he says, you're just a spitting on my joint. Well, I got up and I says, right, Mary, that's it. I took my coat off, took my armband off. And as man says, we went on for 3 days. Every now and again, we would head home up to Westland Street. The people on the bog side, every house you walk past, you all right, son, you all right, you want a sandwich, you want a cup of tea, come on, get a rest. And this went on for 3 days. My father was directing operations as it were then at that stage for the Defence Association, and we got organised to a degree. We sort of formed ourselves into squads, and we got radios, handheld radios, and basically we moved from spot to spot. If there was bother in Rosemount, but there's so many squads sent to Rosemount, so many kept in the bog side. The barricades went up all around the place. And eventually, well, Hardy comes to Hardy, like it was 3 days later. The word came in, the Brits were on their way. And my squad were sent up to the Long Tower.
What was the feeling at that point?
Well, basically, order went out. When the Brits arrive, fall back, do nothing, let them take over. As I say, I was up in the Long Tower when they arrived on. Long Tower was pretty easy to control at the time because most of the action was down in the bog. Long Tower was pretty easy to control. We settled things down there. The troops arrived and they set up basically 2 barbed wire barriers, one across the top of Long Tower Street, the other across at the fountain. So basically that was quiet. I then went down and my father says, right, let's go. And we went down to William Street, which there was, the scene of him coming down with a megaphone and talking to the army, and he eventually got through. At that stage, it was a total and absolute relief. People were literally falling from exhaustion in the street. I've seen police do it, and I know that because it was a tough time for them too. People and youths were literally just dropping on their feet. Now, relief, I think, is a total word, and everybody was very, very happy. There was a great, I was going to say, festive mood in the bog side. The battle was over. People could rest, relax. And then suddenly, people started arriving from everywhere. I mean, and they were coming over to support our people from England, Scotland, Wales, America, France, Germany, and a lot up from Dublin, a lot up from Buncrana, and other parts of Donegal, and it was sort of one big party. And 2 or 3 days after settling in, the organisation started in Westland Street, the front room of Westland Street. You had the civil service, you had the police in operation, and in the kitchen, my mother had the catering operation. I think there must, under my mother's command, 20 women.
So your home
At
was
least.
effectively the headquarters of.
Headquarters, barracks.
So tell us about your home. Tell us
Right.
about.
Well, there was 13 of us as we grew up. It was a 3-bedroomed house. I always remember my father working at the house. The house was never completed. Never. There always seemed to be another extension going on, another bathroom. She ended up now. He converted the attic once because there was basically 6 guys. Well, at this stage, there was 5 boys and 6 girls. And he converted the attic in Westland Street into a bedroom for the boys, which we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bunks. A different 5 bunks equipped with study area, bookshelves, and a lot. My mother, during this period, the attic was just being complete. And I remember one night after, must have been about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd been on duty as a wear for 48 hours on a trot. And I came in to get to bed and climbed the bed up into the attic to jump into my own bed. And there's this big hairy face looked up and he says, "What the hell do you want?" It was Ronnie Drew, the Dubliners. That was during the Free Dairy Fly, obviously. They couldn't understand it,
So
what
your
was
house
happening.
was
It was
busy.
bedlam. I think I would use the word bedlam. We had, eventually we had to sit up and make provision that, I said, we had a civil service and we had typewriters. Eventually we got the phone on. That was the first thing that the brigadier said to me before he went on. He says, "We can't contact you. We need to contact you. Where do you go? Have you not got a phone?" Me fellas, "No, we haven't got a phone." The phone was in the house within 12 hours. And it was the busiest phone in the Bogside. One of the few phones in the Bogside. As I said, it was chaos. My mother catering in the kitchen. I mean, she could be feeding up to 100 people a day. And that was no exaggeration. People had come from everywhere. I mean, my own wife, although she wasn't my girlfriend at the time, her and her sisters came up back from London and worked in the kitchen and in and around the area as well. As I said, people had come from everywhere. There were Frenchmen, Germans. And all this had to be organised, hence the civil service. You had people who were in charge of accommodation. I need to make sure that these visitors and helpers, as they were accommodated, had their food. The food had to be organised in as much as there now became, as I say, there was a civil service. Liam McDade was put in charge of food distribution. So the shopping was done and then it was distributed to all the different billets in the Bogside. You also had the refugee problem, which also entitled getting food together, sending it across the border down to Finnick Camp. And
So if I was to ask you, I know there was a lot in that period, but for one big memory or one piece that really stands out.
well, we go from the sublime to the ridiculous. About a fortnight into it, there was a very heavy meeting happening. And this wee fella, about 9 years old, battered through the door. "I want to see Bogside. I want to see Paddy." And I said, "Somebody go away. Get out of here." I want to. He banged at the door. This big meeting was happening, a government meeting. I said, "I want Paddy." My dad came. He says, "What's wrong with son?" "Maggie down the street. She stole my budgie." Okay. My father says, "Right, you and you go and sort it out for him." So I went down. What had happened to the wee boy's budgie? He had it out in the cage. It got out of the cage and it flew into this wee woman's window. And of course, she closed the window because it was going berserk around her house. So we went down, but it sort of came back up. I said, "Fella, what was all that about?" He says, "Sure, look," he says, "we might be in there sorting out all the problems of the bloody world." He says, "But that, in that young fella's life, that was his biggest problem. That was his life or death." And he says, if you don't work with the people, you don't work with a person, and satisfy the person. See, you're always going to have a person. Disgruntled person leads to a disgruntled community. And we get nowhere unless everybody is reunited.
Powerful message.
That, if you like, was the ridiculous, but it had this sublime message in it that everybody mattered.
Why do you think then that it's important to remember these stories?
Well, basically because they're, as I said, each individual story, each person has a story to tell. I mean, like in Bloody Sunday, people will tell you where they were, what they did, and how it affected them. It affected my father very heavily. And as the time in the bog side drew on, and someone once said, like, the bog side, Free Derry was not behind the barricades. Free Derry was in the minds of the people. They were relieved. They had won a battle. Some people thought at that time of the war. And my father led that to a degree, very much. I mean, he started organising committees, different street committees, different community committees, always with the intention that the movement has to come from the people themselves. This is one of the reasons why, like the other thing, people always talk about Weston Street as the headquarters of Free Derry. Weston Street, that living room, which was the headquarters, was also the first office of the credit union in Derry. And I think with all that my father went through with the Inner City Trust and with every piece of community that he worked with, I think his proudest stamp was that they started the credit union. But my mother's proudest possession at the time was book number 11, Derry Credit Union, the first woman